All right, it is December 5th, 5:45 p.m. and we're gonna call this finance committee meeting to order. Present are council members Barker, Hottinger, Hauser, and Marmy, and Mr. Labuda sitting in for Mr. Lang. First item is the unappropriated balance of the general fund is $1,129,836, and the budget stabilization fund stands at $62,952. First item on the agenda is a request for an appropriation amount of $20,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We recently made a promotion within the fire division to the rank of deputy chief. That rank is not allowed to accrue comp time, so this would be the payout for that individual's comp time that they have on the books right now.
Okay.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Barker, second by Labutus. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor send this on full council signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Director. Next item, under the items at the discretion of the chair. One thing that I just want to share with everyone is kind of the budget process. We intended to have the budget presented during committee this evening. However, with the fire department, the timing of them, the negotiations being final and being approved, didn't have all the data to plug in all of their numbers. They have since this morning, they have plugged those in. We don't anticipate necessarily that the other two bargaining units will be completed. So we are going to hear it on the 19th. We will discuss it in committees, and then we will vote on it on the 19th also. So that will, that's kind of where we're going to be in the process. Everybody on council, though, should have gotten notification that if you want to discuss any items with the auditor's office, Auditor Bubs is making himself and his team available for that. Also, once it comes out, you'll get copies of it in your email prior to it actually coming to committees. And they're going to do that as soon as they can. They're not going to wait probably till the Thursday before. So that way you'll have some time to kind of review it. I want to pause for just a second. So there's some items that we'll need. I'm just discussing because he has a committee meeting, a personnel committee meeting that pertains to the budget and personnel combined. So any questions on the budget process that anybody has? Okay, so with that, this finance committee adjourned, and next up is service.
I will call the service committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Brad Harris, Dr. Blind, and manager. Up first, we'll consider resolution 22-110, a resolution authorizing the director of public service to execute a contract for reimbursement of legal representation of indigent persons for calendar year 2023 with the Licking County Board of Commissioners for the city of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, and declare an emergency. You can get on this? Thank you.
Sure.
Somebody, please.
Yes, this is the yearly legislation that is filed to ensure that we get this back to the county so that we can afford to fund those who need attorneys in our court system and other indigents.
And this is something we do every year.
Yes.
Any questions from the committee?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Parker. Second by Hollinger. Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor of this on council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That'll pass with a vote, or with a vote of 5-0. As much as I love being up here, that concludes the service committee. Up next, I believe, will be through to that.
I don't think it's. Getting that fixed, by the way.
So like,
It's not round. Yeah, it's not calibrated right. I went and curved it. Wonder.
yeah, no,
That was- I didn't see it. I was on the phone and I was like, ooh, I'm like. Good thing I don't have my.
Okay, we're gonna call this meeting of the personnel committee to order. Those present are myself, Lang, Cottinger, Rebutus, Parker, and Brian. We've got two items on the agenda, and actually I'm gonna flip them because I think we may have a bit more discussion, possibly need to go into executive session for ordinance 2250. So first up, we'll discuss ordinance 22-51, an ordinance amending the Department of Authorization tables of Licking County Municipal Court Adult Probation Department and abolishing the position of senior probation officer from hourly non-bargaining personnel unit classifications and creating a senior probation officer in the management and supervisory exempt unit classification and setting the compensation therefore.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Hope the day finds you well. Director Sads had an this is the Adult Probation Department. Director Sads had an opportunity to review his operation. He believes, and I agree, he needs another supervisor. And that's it very simply. As I've gotten to know Kevin, we've discussed some circumstances in the shop, and oftentimes he's down the weeds. And I'm like, Director, we got to get you back up onto the ledge. And he certainly forgot more about adult probation. I hope to know. If you have technical questions, and I'd answer any that I could.
Thank you. Any discussion from the committee?
Just, if you could just elaborate a little bit, or maybe he can, just, what's the additional person that we doing?
And I don't want to speak for our director, but my understanding is a frontline supervisor. Conflict resolution, again, the frontline supervisor is opposed to being a director. And that's what he has found himself doing, is engaging in frontline supervisory practices. The fear is you're not directing now, you're a frontline supervisor.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Chair. Director Spurgeon, can you speak to, I just want to confirm this is essentially on the budget cost neutral?
It would not be revenue neutral. So a typical or organizational best practice is about an 8 to 12% spread between ranks. We picked 9 to be sensitive to budgetary impact. This is going to have my calculations $2.11 an hour. 2,080 hours is $43.88 So just south of $4,400 annual impact. I've discussed the director. He said his budget can endure that, and So we certainly urge your consideration, send to full council.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I offer a motion.
Second.
Motion by Parker. Second by Ryan. Mr. Spurgeon, it was my understanding we were gonna be getting rid of a position as well, or is that, I know that's not in here, but I think. I just wanted to clarify that piece of it.
So we are abolishing, but I don't want to present as revenue neutral because there's still an annual salary. And this annual salary would be $4,388 more than the last annual salary. So as far as strength authorization, I'm hesitant to say it firmly, but I believe that is neutral.
Right.
But this is, I mean, there's a couple of extra dollars required to do this.
Understood. But this person then would no longer be overtime eligible when they.
No, their management, yeah, that's.
Okay. Yeah.
One last
Please.
question. So you said that their budget can handle that. Is it in the current budget that the auditor's office is working on?
I would have to defer to the director for that. I've not seen his budget proposal.
I'd like to share something with all the committee members, if I can. This will help you understand our budget a little bit better. So I don't know if many of you know, but our budget, we're funded by a lot of other outside entities other than the city of Newark. So if you can focus on this sheet, these are 2021 figures. So our total expenses in 2021 were $1,075,158.92. We took in $768,783.37. If you look at the pie chart below, our outside funding sources funded 72% of the probation department in 2021. The city of Newark only funded 28%. Really asking for a little bit over $4,000, which I don't think is too much to ask if you look at this pie chart.
My question is just that, giving the budget numbers that we've already submitted, I guess, to you,
It's not in there.
it's not in there. Okay, so you have to adjust what you're working on.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Sure, if you pass it tonight tentatively, we'll go ahead and put it in the budget. You know, if you choose to vote it down later, we would have to remove it, but we'll go ahead and enter it before you see it in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Okay, with that, we will put this to a vote to send this on full council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, up next, we will consider ordinance 22-50, an ordinance setting compensation and stating policy with respect to certain positions in the office of the clerk of Lincoln County Municipal Court, the city of North Ohio, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, and conflicts.
Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. Aren't you glad it's about over? Okay. Once again, I thank you for your attention. This is just a continuation of what we've been talking about for a couple of years now. But in this particular situation, I took the advice of the honorable members of council and I put it in there prior to the budget. So budget being approved. And that was one of the stipulations that many of you suggested that I could do it, that I do. So here I am prior to budget. I don't know if the auditor sent out his spreadsheet to everybody or not, really. Okay, so you have that in front of you. So the total difference would be $64,140. That it would bring, so, you know, to give the increases to bring parity to those ranges for the positions in the office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the committee?
So this would be, so I understand everybody in your department would be getting a bump up.
Except for myself, and of course, the chief deputy clerk is not included. Because we're separate. Separate legislation covers, well, the Ohio Revised Code covers me, and separate legislation covers the chief deputy clerk.
Okay, and then I apologize, I'm sure you probably explained this. I don't know how many times, but maybe you could do it one more time.
I'll try.
The reasoning for, I mean, some of the bumps are pretty substantial. So maybe I'm not asking for every, to go through all line items, but generally, why are you asking?
The information that was released during last year, if you remember or not, was two things, two factors that I took into consideration. I did an analysis of courts, municipal court clerk's offices of similar size and load in the surrounding area. I didn't go too far out because there's nobody here gonna go drive to, Marietta, Ohio to work. But I did, Delaware, Fairfield, Franklin, some of the surrounding areas, compared them in the salaries to a municipal court to determine whether we were under, over, or we were at, and we were under. I also took into consideration other positions in the city of Newark, although not exact to duties, because certainly nobody would ever understand the depth of knowledge and information a deputy clerk has to have in order to perform the duties of their office, the office. Case management seems like a simple terminology, but quite frankly, it is impacting to a person's life, a defendant that would come through there. So there is a lot of technicality that they have to remember, functions to implement. And so I can't compare it for duty to duty in the city of Newark, but I can in other municipal court clerk's offices. And that's there's no parity was not there. We have other offices in the city, other clerks that are somewhat titled clerk. I think close to that title anyway, that are at the range for which we have proposed.
So it's not really caseload per se, it's more parity.
Well, I only compared it to municipal court clerk's offices that have similar caseloads. Okay, and parity then would come into play. I didn't go to like Coshocton, smaller caseload, smaller office. The depth of, responsibility, even though the workload probably is the same, it's just not as the volume is not as great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, did you compare it at all to the other Lincoln County clerk's offices?
Comment, please, or
Yeah.
juvenile court? No, I did not.
Just be curious how we match up against
Mhm.
the other jobs in town that I would assume would be similar.
It's been a while since I brushed that off. I don't think that I did. Not on common pleas, and I don't think I did for juvenile court either.
So I see it's roughly 6.5%, give or take a little bit for most of your folks, and then there's the one position that looks like it's jumping up 11%. Can you speak to that? Look like all the other were sort of kind of in the same ballpark, but there was one that the non-bargaining 35 position seemed to be a more substantial jump than the rest. I'm not sure if that was intentional, or if that was just.
I think it's, which one of you? I'm trying to.
The last one.
The last one, okay. When you look at that, I see, okay. I was trying to find your 35, it goes to 42. When you look at that, because that's the office manager. And the office manager, when you compare it to other office manager titles in the city of Newark, you will find that that's close to the range for which others are at. And the responsibility of that position has become, it truly has grown. It was not there before I was elected, and we incorporated it because it is a protection to the office. It's to maintain continuity in the structure and knowledge. Because as you know, an elected clerk, we're elected, we're not going to be there forever, although some of you may think, when is she going to leave? Well, it's coming up soon, 3 years left. But that is the person that holds it together. It happens to be a male in this position, and his years of service has been over 20. I can't remember exactly. I'm glad. I was surprised to see some of the deputy clerks with us tonight. It was wonderful. Such a boost to my ego here a little bit. But and I don't want to, he is here. But he already knows how proud we are of what he does for the office and the integrity he puts into this work. And everybody goes to him. I mean, sometimes I say, please leave him alone, come to me. But it's the one that's going to hold it together when I'm no longer there and a new clerk comes in. to be one of you guys.
Any other questions from the committee? I would ask, Mayor, I don't know if you have any remarks would like to speak on this legislation. I'd be curious how this impacts, the administration if we were to proceed, how this might impact other departments within the city, and if we've had any rumblings, given, this is on our agenda.
I would ask that we go into executive session to discuss employee compensation for Ohio Chapter Code 3358.
I'll make the motion to move into executive session.
All right. Would you please state the specificity, the reason, so that we're going into executive session to discuss
To discuss.
the compensation of the legislation regarding the pay for the employees of the clerk's office.
So I'll make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss the legislation for the compensation of the clerk's office.
And could you also share who these today, such as myself, since I'm not on council?
That's up
That's
that's up to you guys.
And we need a second as well.
Second,
Second by Ms. Havinger. And I guess that motion then would be, for all the administration. Can we include Marcia if we're going to be talking about?
You can invite whoever you want.
Okay, so I think the members of council, the members of the administration and as well as the auditor. And the auditor, yes.
Do you want me here?
Yeah, it's longer.
Okay.
So we will need to clear the room here so we can go into executive session. And we'll let everybody back in. It's really. Yeah, I guess we need to vote first. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, no call, vote. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Wayne, yes. Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan. Ms. Havinger.
yes.
Mr. Davis. Yes. That's 5-0. We go into executive session.